Good evening and welcome to the Big Ten Mafia Show here on the College Football Mafia Network. My name is Moan, and I wanted to kick this off tonight to say Happy Veterans Day to all the people, the men and women who have served this nation. And we've got two of them here with us, Sergeant Pickles, Marines, and Becky Go Huskies, the Navy.
Yep. Go Navy, beat Army. We can both agree on that.
Thank you both for your service. It's much appreciated. And thank you to anybody who's in the chat who has served. Cheers to you. I'll have a drink on that, and I will let Sergeant Pickles kick us off.
Yep. Shout out to friend of the show, Ed Wayner. He was commenting on our stuff earlier. He's a good old Submariner from back in the day, one of our Navy friends. So, yeah, anyone out there, if you served, you have family that served, we appreciate you. Obviously, Becky and myself did a little time and had some fun. But, we just want to appreciate all our veterans out there because they allow us to enjoy stuff like college football, and none of us can take it for granted. But in celebration of their sacrifice, we're going to kick things off, Mo, and we got a few people rolling in. Wyron Willie, he messaged me. He's not able to make it tonight, but he'll listen in. Threw us a couple of really cool super chats. Thank you to everyone who served. Absolutely, Ryan. We're right there with you. And Minnesota fan, you know who you are, always bashing Wisconsin. Minnesota's lucky to win. Lost to Rutgers. You want to bash Wisconsin? Start your own podcast. Just wanted to get those out of the way because Ryan's not going to be able to make it in tonight. But we appreciate the generosity, and we're all for giving each other a nice and gentle rivalry. But let's keep it inside the lines, people. But coming up from this weekend, Becky, how we doing? How you feeling post college football weekend? We're seeing the end stretch, the final run of our conference.
Yeah, my liver can't take much more of this. It's got to survive Friday night.
Here's that.
But yeah, it's got to survive the cold on Friday night inside Husky Stadium. But 2 weeks after that of just absolutely the most ridiculous crap that you're going to see on Twitter from any of us. So that's where this is. All that team does is make me want to drink when they play on the road. I will say this though. I'm glad I didn't spend the $4,000 that I had planned to spend to go to that game because I'd have been very mad. I was supposed to go. I had a work thing, couldn't go, and I gave it to another friend who went, and yeah, none of them were happy. So they all left about the third quarter.
Yeah, I think it's a good thing you didn't go to Penn State and I didn't go to Iowa like I originally was either. We may have dodged bullets on that one.
May have.
Yeah. You want to at least see your team put up a valiant fight on the road if you're going to lose.
I'll say this. It might have been a beating. It was still better than whatever Florida State tried.
That's true. That was awful.
We'll let Moen
put that on NBC. God.
Yeah, we'll leave the Notre Dame chat to Moen. Speaking of Moen, how was your weekend and why are you wearing your headgear today, Moen?
Michigan State, they did not lose a game this weekend. It was impossible for them to lose. I usually only break out new hats when a team wins, but I don't know if that's going to happen for Michigan State down the stretch, especially with Childs at quarterback. You never know who's going to show up. So I'm breaking out the Michigan State Sparty hat for tonight.
Yep, absolutely. I did see some very clever Nebraska fans showing a game box score recap where they lost to the bye week. So credit to them for a little bit of humor in Nebraska's plight of not making a bowl game or trying real hard to get there.
Speaking of Nebraska, there's some news there with Nebraska today. Did you guys see that?
We'll touch on that when we get to their game. There's been some stuff going on with a few Big Ten teams, Wisconsin, et cetera, et cetera. So a few people stopping in early. Timothy Green, our Mountaineer friend. Let's get ready to rock and roll. Absolutely. Earl Carr, how about them Cougars? You know what? I will walk back every bad take I had from before the season that they were going to be kind of a 500-ish team. And the Holy War for the Big 12, I think, delivered on all fronts. Becky, Moen, you guys got anything about what happened in Utah there?
It was filled with drama. It definitely delivered on the drama front, and that was after the game was over. The AD and the coach, and we talked about it a little bit on my show last night. Fans throwing trash on the field, unacceptable. head cheerleader got knocked out by somebody throwing a water bottle.
Not cool.
Yeah, it's a game, guys.
Yeah. These past few weeks have had several different types of incidents where it's like, come on, man, like keep it classy.
I mean,
even
there was even an incident. There were incidents at the Colorado Texas Tech game. I was like, good God, what is? I want to say they're just tortillas, but man, like what the ref said to Colorado, to like Deanna, was like, come on, dude, like you're a ref, you're not supposed to do that. That was kind of mean. So
yeah, with the tortillas and stuff, like that's a thing you kind of know going into the stadium that they're going to throw them. But to the fans in the crowd, like you winging it to the 50-yard line, like all you're doing is stopping the game, and potentially they could give the crowd a penalty, which they are fully within their rights to do. Like, you know, throw it on the sideline. Don't try and hit anyone in the head. Like it's a fun tradition, but these things can get carried away. So let's keep it classy, people.
Ole Miss got a penalty. Didn't they? They got a penalty for it. So
rushing the field before the clock actually run down all the way. That was something.
Yeah, that was something too.
Yeah, it's the end of the season. People are starting to lose their minds. Mr. Ed Wayner, as I spoke of earlier, another veteran friend out there. Thank you for your service. Here's to you, Mr. John Robinson, former USC and Rams coach who passed away at 89. A little before my era, but maybe Moen or Becky, you guys know a little bit about John Robinson?
Yeah, he won the 1978 national title with USC. He was a really good coach. Coached a number of those guys, like Ronnie Lott and what was Marcus Allen. Like I think he's the one that brought them to USC. But also he was also the head coach at UNLV and was pretty good at UNLV from what I heard. So yeah, it's sad. It's sad. I mean, great USC head coach, and like I said, won a national title, and kind of was that bridge between, their great historic coach of the early 70s and then what they had going into the 80s. So,
yeah, very, very much so. And so rest in peace to him. Obviously, a very accomplished guy, and 89 years is as good as most of us could hope to have. So, rest in peace to him. And USC hopefully is looking for that kind of success again. Hopefully they'll find it soon. They need it. Clay Johnson, resident Wisconsin, Michigan man. Go blue. I'll say it just for you only because we beat Michigan this year. Otherwise, I'd be just like Mo and refuse to say it. Bob Swinger, good evening, my friend. How we doing? Joaquin Morales, hello, CFM fam. How about them Sun Devils? Man, they are my surprise team. I'd say just a touch behind BYU, my surprise team in the Big 12. If Scatabo doesn't break, you can just run the ball until someone stops you, and so far, very few have been able to.
Nope. That's it's that offense that they finally are running that offense that they ran at Oregon 2 years ago when Dillon was the offensive coordinator there. Just kind of like run the ball, dink, 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 run the ball, dink, 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 top. Like they're not great. They're not doing anything flashy, but they just keep winning, and it's insane. And I'm really happy. I will say this: I'm glad we don't ever have to play in Tempe ever again, because weird things happen to teams who play in Tempe. So
House of Horrors. House of Horrors when Pacific Northwest teams go to Tempe and Tucson. I don't know what it is. It wasn't just Washington. It happened to Wazoo, Oregon State. Weird things happen.
Everybody. Weird things happen in the desert.
It's a bizarre place.
Yeah.
Clay Johnson, Semper Fi to you as well, my friend. Earl Carr. We appreciate you, and thank a veteran today. Do something nice for him. I know that it's our one day of the year, but, like I said, we love college football, and people who serve allow us to do stuff that we enjoy doing on the weekends and every other time of year. So we appreciate you guys. Nebraska, Wisconsin has to win number 6.
That's true. They've got to play each other, and whoever wins is bowl eligible.
Well, how long has it been since Nebraska played in a bowl game?
Let's see.
Wisconsin's got Oregon this week, but I think
they
played last week of the year.
Did they make it in during the COVID season?
No, I think it's been like 8 or 9 years. I know it's been a while. Like they've been bad all the time. Like they joined the Big Ten. And
I know they extended
bad.
Scott Frost after the COVID season, and that
they did.
didn't go so well.
About that.
Yeah, not so good. All right, Indy Nation, the Hoosiers are coming for the Buckeyes. And I got to say, Moen, it's never a thought that I would have, no offense to Indiana, that I don't know who's going to win that game. I really don't. I am of such split minds about it.
Well, we don't have to worry about it for a week, so.
It's true, but it's looming large as a potential top 3 matchup, top 4 or 5 matchup. I mean, whoever loses this week, maybe teams move around, but
Indiana's not losing, so they're off this week.
There you go. So
Indiana has a bye this week, and Ohio State has to go to Wrigley Field and play Northwestern.
So
thank God it's in Wrigley Field.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't want to play in the Snow Bowl on the lakefront.
Right. For Ohio State, I would suggest beat the crap out of them early so you can turn it into a bye.
Yeah, I think you're going to see a very run-heavy offense on Saturday.
Yeah.
Yep, definitely. Line said, Big Ten flexing, not too bad to be so top-heavy. Yeah, there's a clear class of 4 that are sitting at the top, and then not a big step, but there's definitely a clear gap and kind of a middle chunk and then another gap to the bottom. So it's good, though. I mean, realignment was all about putting more capable teams and having more of them at a time. And so far it's working out for the Big Ten. You put 4 teams in a playoff, that's awesome. That's huge representation when the field is only 12. So that was kind of the plan all along. We'll see if it holds on for the rest of the season. Glad to see 4 big schools. SEC who? Yeah, all the models still have SEC teams high. I saw one of them that still has Alabama as the best on-paper team in the country and blah, 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 blah. We're Big Ten shills here, but SEC teams beating other mediocre, overranked SEC teams, and they just inflate their own resumes. The only good side now, it all comes out in the wash. Because in the playoff, if they're really as overrated as we think, we're not going to see a lot of SEC making the quarterfinals and the semifinals.
We talked about it last night, but can you guys imagine an Alabama team having to roll up to Beaver Stadium for a whiteout in December? And it might be a real whiteout. There might be winter conditions in State College, Pennsylvania. So we'll see how well they hold up in the North.
Yeah. That's my favorite thing about the playoff is these teams from the South where the weather's great. Maybe it rains, but for the most part, the weather's great. But every single time they seem to beat the teams from up north, it's in the comforts of a dome. And the conditions are always perfect. Not going to see that anymore. Not going to see that anymore. Eventually, like you guys said, Alabama's going to have to go to places like Oregon or Happy Valley or the big house,
Bloomington,
or the shoe, or Bloomington. Like they're going to have to go to these places and actually like win in the elements. So I'm kind of looking forward to this.
Yeah, I mean the X factor I think of the new playoff is absolutely that first round home site. You get the full crowd, the full intensity, and I mean every game there is basically going to be a college game day level of anticipation, 4 times over. So it'll be a lot of fun, and win or lose, obviously we want the Big Ten teams to do well, minus Oregon, but it'll be a lot of fun, and I think we'll just see some incredible games.
I'm still not convinced that Oregon's the best team in the country. I know they're undefeated. I'm just not convinced to be.
Yeah, there's definitely some contenders up there, but we'll finally get a chance to. I mean, maybe you won't hear 100% consensus, but I think after a 12-team playoff and the kind of teams they're putting in, you won't have too many people saying that the most deserving team is going to win it all.
No, I think that the top 6 in the country are all crazy good though. Like there's a gap between the top 12. And I'm not even including Boise State in that top 12. Like there's just a gap after. It's like a cliff after the top 12. Just like complete
Yep. Moving on down. Rockin' Rand in the house. Hello, my friend. UCLA guy this week. We understand. We know you got some.
We get it. He's got the wife is a UCLA Bruin.
Yeah, we know, Rock. We'll forgive you. It's okay. I'm pretty sure you don't want to sleep on the couch this week because you took your friend's position, so we won't judge you too much for that one. We'll definitely get to that in the previews, but obviously it's kind of fun seeing some old Pac-12 rivalries, pseudo rivalries live on. Coming around to it, Moen, though, we're going to recap the week as it went. What do we got rolling off the top?
Well, let's we'll start with Saturday's game here. Purdue at Ohio State. Gus Johnson with probably the most exciting call in the entire season with a scoop and score by the Ohio State Buckeyes. If you didn't catch it, you have never heard a more mellow, dulcet tone than Gus Johnson going, fumble by Purdue, scoop and score by Jack Sawyer, touchdown Ohio State. So anyway, Joel, it was...
Yeah, what was the score at the time?
I believe that was the last touchdown. It was either the last one or the next to last touchdown.
Yeah. I'm not defending being lackluster because you should at least give it a little bit of, you don't just go over the top excitement like it's the craziest play you've ever seen, but you give it a little bit of intensity because it's a unusual play and an exciting play. But I do understand the kind of fatigue. It's like, hey, please just let this game be over. You're already up 5 touchdowns. Just make it stop.
Yeah, Purdue didn't do very well here.
No.
I was more upset, and I said to you guys, I was like, it's only 24-0 in the third. What is wrong with Ohio State?
Part of it was they were trying out new defensive schemes, which was letting Purdue get some yards. They were moving guys around in the linebacking core. So Purdue was making some, yardage there in the first. They missed a field goal. They could have scored. They missed a field goal. They were in the red zone, went, 3 and out and missed a field goal. So, but no, Purdue's the worst team in, I think, the A.
They're the worst power program team.
Yeah. I think Brian Walters has to go. He fired his OC. He took over offensive play calling. It was a little better, but just still,
it's just as bad.
Bad team.
I foresee no conference wins and a total overhaul for Purdue coming in the offseason, unfortunately.
Yeah. Then we had Maryland versus Oregon. Oregon keeps on rolling. This was not an exciting game. It was 21-10 at half. Not a lot you can say about Oregon other than they keep beating who's put in front of them. Dillon Gabriel now has is a touchdown leader in NCAA football. All time.
It only takes 8 of playing, but yeah.
I had no idea that he started playing at UCF.
Yeah.
No idea.
Oh, yeah.
I had no idea he started there. I was like, I didn't know he'd been. I legit thought he was like a 2-year starter at Oklahoma.
He was part of those UCLA. I don't know if he was on the 2017 undefeated team or not. I mean,
no, he couldn't have been
exactly what year he started.
Yeah.
But he was part of those really good UCF teams that essentially got them into the Big 12. Like those years of putting good ball on the field is what got them into the conference.
I watched every minute of this game.
Yeah.
With an Oregon fan.
Yikes.
And there definitely was a sense that Maryland was in this game the whole time. I know, you see that halftime score? This was 29-18. I kid you not. It was 29-18, and Oregon had handed them short fields, and I'm not kidding. There were multiple stands in the red zone. They held them. If Maryland had scored on 2 of those possessions, this is a completely different ballgame. Maryland might have won this game. Oregon's defense was really good when it needed to be, but for parts of this game, Maryland could get 10 yards if they wanted it. They could get 12 yards if they wanted it. They just wanted 3 yards. They would get it. I'm telling you, the score does not – Oregon just kind of is just like, but they needed a late scoring drive to put this game away, because if they had come away with a field goal instead of a touchdown late, I'm telling you, we're talking about a completely different ball game. Maryland was in this game the entire time. It was not. It was close. That score is not. The score does not tell you how close this game was. It was getting tight, and it was an 11-point ball game at the start of the fourth quarter.
Yeah, we get a lot of, secondary Oregon Twitter, as you can imagine, being plugged in, and we have some friends who are Oregon fans up here. The general consensus I saw is obviously they pulled away at the end, and Maryland just kind of fell apart, had no chance at a comeback. Yep. But for a good 2.5 quarters of this game, if Maryland was a team that was 10 to 20% better, Oregon would have been in serious trouble. Had they played Ohio State with that performance that they just put up against Maryland, they would have lost.
They would have lost big.
Yeah.
Like, I'm telling you, like, Duck fans were like, oh, we escaped that. Like, but you needed to. Like, I do think it's great that Oregon's getting kind of tested like this. You need to be tested like this. You can't just go out and blow everybody out. But, man, I'm telling you, there were 3 plays. 3 plays. There were 2 interceptions thrown by Maryland in this game. One of them was definitely in the red zone that I remember. That's what I'm telling you. There are like 3 plays Maryland does. Maryland went to go kick a field goal. Oregon committed a penalty on the field goal attempt. And Maryland, it was enough yardage for Maryland to get a first down. So Maryland went for it and ended up going for it on fourth and goal and didn't get in the end zone. This is what I'm saying. Like, just a couple of different plays here and there. Different ball game for Oregon, and Oregon's fans were like, yes, we definitely escaped this game. That score is not indicative of how well those 2 teams played.
Yeah. Quick shout out to our friend Daniel Gygax. He's playing taxi for his daughter, but wanted to mention also a service person as well, Air Force if I'm not mistaken. So thank you for your service, Daniel. And check out Daniel and the rest of the crew on the Big 12 Mafia show coming up this week. It'll be extra spicy post-Holy War. But I just thought I want to give that a mention right quick. So moving on down from the battle on the pond between the Terrapins and the Duckies, what do we got next, Moen?
We've got the red-hot UCLA Bruins ending the Iowa Hawkeyes.
The fighting Kirk Ferentzes versus the fighting Mrs. Rockin' Rants. And UCLA, they are so Jekyll and Hyde because, Becky and I said this from the beginning. We told people who said, UCLA won't win a single game in the Big Ten. They'll be down there with Purdue. Those guys, they get 5 stars. They get 4 and 5 stars all over their roster. And it's all about putting it together, which is what they've struggled to do. But those dudes are athletes. Ethan Garbers is very Aiden Childs-ish at Michigan State to me, even though he's way more experienced. He's a redshirt senior now, where when he's on, he can light up almost anybody. But when he's off, it looks terrible, and he's throwing picks and doing dumb stuff with the ball. But he flipped it on against Iowa, who still has that stout defense, and his running ability is really the X factor that allows him to put some points on the board. So Iowa, I swear Iowa is like banned from scoring between 25 and 35 points. That has to be either over or under. But going to LA, even though the Rose Bowl is half empty for their games, it's a tough task. And so far, the cross country travel bugaboo for the conference is holding up.
Yeah, this was ugly. Did you guys watch this game at all? Like,
very short part of it.
Anybody in the chat who watched this game, this was like, I'd rather get a root canal without Novocaine. That second quarter, UCLA kind of exploded. That was it. That was their entire offense for most of the game. Like, that's it. Like, they didn't do anything until the fourth quarter. It was like, but God, I don't know what to, I think Washington's a Jekyll and Hyde. Iowa has to be Jekyll and Hyde. I don't know what to say about them. Like, there's just some games where their offense is like I'm going to be blunt. UCLA's defense isn't that good. It's not that good. It's not good at all. They should have scored like 35 or 40 on them, and most UCLA fans thought they were going to get their butts handed to them. But they keep handing the ball off, throw. I mean, I don't know what it is. You play teams like Washington who are really good against the pass and terrible against the run, and you're the complete opposite playing them. And then you go out and play UCLA, who's not good against the pass at all, and you decide to run the ball. And run the ball you did. And guess what UCLA is really good at doing? Stopping the run. Kirk Ferentz needs to retire. This is like watching Pete Carroll and the Seattle Seahawks last year when the whole league has caught up and passed them offensively, and you're just like, you can't run, throw, and not expect to punt. I get it. Your special teams are good, Iowa. You're not that good. You're 6-4 now. You should be 7-3. Sorry.
But they are bowl eligible. They are bowl eligible, and that continues a streak for them, I believe.
Yeah, sure. But congrats. You should have been in the playoff mix this year, Iowa. Your defense is good enough to put you in the playoff mix.
Moving on, Washington at Penn State. I'll let you guys rank.
Okay, so as the score indicates, this was an absolute butt whooping. I'm not trying to be a doomer fan, but I had no expectations for UW to compete in this game, and unfortunately I was correct. As you can see, it was 28-0 at half. Washington was they would have some drives where they would move. They weren't just totally getting 3 and out every time. They were moving the ball a little bit, and then they do what they do. Stupid penalties, stupid plays, an interception to just a wide open defender with no receiver in the area. And in the second half, Will Rogers got benched. And that was when I turned the game back on, was because I got a Twitter alert that they were putting our true freshman quarterback in, which granted, the defense was still unbearable to watch, but it was just horrible. And it made Jed Fish and the defense, so Steve Belichick, it made them look unprepared, which is unacceptable going into a whiteout at Penn State. You might get beat, but to just get played off the field like that and have no answers on defense for stopping Penn State, it was embarrassing. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I can live with a loss at the whiteout at Penn State, but to not even be competitive on the field through halftime, it's not good enough. And I told this to Moen that it kind of blew my mind because I've had to fight the trolls left, right, and center about Washington is 2023 TCU. You're going to make a playoff and fade into obscurity. Well, speaking of coming up this week, if I'm still hoping and praying, but I'm not thinking they beat Oregon this year. So if you don't beat UCLA, Washington Huskies, you will be 5-7, miss a bowl game. And funny, if you look at it, 2023 TCU, 5-7, missed a bowl game right after making a playoff. Becky's going to disagree with me. They're not the same team, but you're not going to beat these allegations if you don't at least make a bowl and put up a respectable end to the season. So that's going forward. But this game, they just got played off the field, and the coaching decisions were pretty mind-boggling to me. They're going for it middle of the third quarter on 4th down, and you call a weird swing pass instead of at least trying to pass the ball down the field to get a first down. I didn't understand.
I do.
Becky, your turn. A tag out.
I do. I'm going to say this. No, we're not the same as TCU. We have 50 brand new players.
Yeah.
50. This is not an easy thing. The offensive line wasn't even an offensive line until August. So let's get that out there. Right? This isn't a TCU situation where they brought back 17 out of 22 guys and faded. No, we brought back one starter. So I'm not concerned on that front. I don't care. I don't give a crap about the 2023 team and who came back, blah, 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 blah. It's all crap anyway. What I do care about is the fact that we sit here and we can't block. You're like, oh, he's running a swing pass. That's because we can't block. They were in the quarterback's lap on multiple plays as he got the snap. Their blitz was ridiculous. It was great. And I say this all sincerity. I get it. Penn State's pissed. They got their butts handed to them essentially again by Ohio State. They can't beat Ohio State. This is their whiteout game. We have never had, and Jed Fish said this, nobody on the team had ever played in front of a crowd that large. This was going to be an uphill battle from the beginning. Everybody knew it. This was not going to be easy. This was the one game I circled 100% loss. But no excuse. The offensive line, they've got to figure it out in the offseason because it ain't going to get improved now. Too late. We're past that point. And like he said, it's going to take a little minute. It's going to take a minute. Washington's not going to fade into obscurity. It's going to take a minute. People need to breathe. Let the coaching staff do its thing. By the way, Penn State, they only scored 7 points in the second half. It's because the defense actually stepped up when they needed to. Now, what I am pissed about, it's 35-6, James Franklin. Take a knee, you dick. Sorry, not sorry. I know what I said. Take a knee. You don't like you sat there, ran a play, you got like an 80-yard run. Take the knee. Yeah, if I'm Jed Fish, I'm not shaking your hand either. That was Bush League crap.
Yeah, keep chopping. It seems like he did refuse to shake his hand because, like, what did Washington ever do to you? You're all pissy because Ohio State made you look foolish. Your own fans screamed at you as you left the stadium. And we took a beat down, right? Like, it's Washington's job to stop the plays, but Washington had backups in. Penn State, I was told, had backups in. Like, this game was over. Run the ball, make it stop. Like, but he's still running full-on offensive plays, trying to run up the score.
And look,
and
we don't have the depth there.
Not shaking his hand. It's like, we didn't do anything to you.
No, we don't have the depth right now because of all the injuries on our D line. We don't have the depth to, like, we're playing like the 7th and 8th guys right now. Like, the 4th and 5th guys are starting because of the issues we've had with injuries on the D line. Like, just take the knee. Like, we get it. You want to just push it and push it and push it. Well, this is why nobody in the SEC liked you as a coach. This is why I get now why most of the Big Ten hates you outside of guys like Ryan Day and Jim Harbaugh, because they can beat you. You can't beat them. So you're going to, I get it. You want to put style points on now because you want to look great so you have a home playoff game? Cool. Yeah. I hope like hell somebody does it to you and you go, I don't know why they would do that. Well, we watch the tape of what you guys do all the time against everybody. Just take a knee in the future. I won't drop 65 on you when I don't need to. Like, I'm done. Done. This game was crap. It sucks. I'm glad I didn't pay $4,000 to go there like I was going to. I ended up having a work thing and couldn't travel. Thank God. All my friends left in the third. But, Jed Fish, everybody's like, Jed Fish, you guys are stuck with it. Jed Fish isn't the problem. Jed Fish isn't the problem. We need play calling is too cute. He has to call certain things because they can't block up front. They have a game plan for a reason, guys. They can't block. That O-line it would be considered patchwork if we're talking NFL. They have nothing. These guys are former G5 and FCS O-linemen outside of one guy who was the center, who was recruited by Kalen DeBoer. His brother, by the way, was the starting center at Oklahoma before he got hurt. I'm talking about Hatchet. So we need to breathe, relax. And
don't you tell me to calm down.
Let's move on to Michigan, Indiana, because I'm telling you right now, Michigan exposed Indiana.
Yeah. Real quick, Becky, I think you and I can agree. If you did watch the second half,
he's good.
Quarterback went in. He's good. He you can see they put up 3-3. Yes, Penn State had pulled away all their starters and were kind of running vanilla defense, but that dude's an athlete and the future's promising. So I'm not totally disheartened by that game.
Now, I have to defend James Franklin a little bit here before you guys. I know you don't want to hear it. James Franklin has learned to keep his foot on the gas because there have been times in the past where James Franklin's been up in the fourth quarter by double digits and had his team blow a lead because they could not get anything accomplished on offense.
I get that. but it was a minute.
That was
19
not
left
this
in the game.
situation, though.
And he was
I
up
understand that,
28.
but this is the way Franklin plays now.
Yeah.
Ever since Ohio State came back in the fourth quarter with JT Barrett, and absolutely, I think Ohio State was down 18 or 21, and they ended up coming back and winning the game by 3 in the fourth quarter. It was like 6 minutes left in the fourth quarter, and JT Barrett just kept driving on them because Penn State's offense didn't do anything. So, maybe, I mean, I take it as a compliment that
it's going to sound like sour grapes from us anyway. Like I said, if he did indeed put the starters in, which I don't know his roster that well, it's just like if you're play calling and still throwing the ball down the field, you're not just running it like up 4 scores. Like, come on, man. I don't get that. I would say the same if it was any other team, even if it was a team I hate. Well, maybe not Oregon. I retract that statement. Stephen Vitt, don't you tell me to calm down. Yeah, I should put that. That should be our first ever Big Ten Mafia t-shirt. Don't you tell me.
You know what, Mo, and if that's not a sounder by the end of the week.
Somebody timestamp that for me. Somebody leave a timestamp in the comments.
It's less embarrassing than Wild.
It's right around the 33-minute mark.
Yeah.
Don't you tell me to calm down.
Not the most foolish thing I've ever said, so I'll take it. Moving right along.
That's a hot take there.
Speaking of a little bit of hatred and vengeance, the Michigan Wolverines. I know we got some Michigan men in chat. We're trying not to pick on you. We're still salty about last season. I'll admit it. But Michigan, like, I don't want to say frauds in terms of, I mean, fans are just going to say whatever they want about the team. But the media thought this was a Big Ten contending team, and they're just not. They're not there. And I still see, projections of 3-4 guys going in the first round. We've talked about it on prior weeks. Like, you have the talent, but you're not putting it together. And I don't understand. That being said, they played Indiana closer than a lot of other teams have this year.
Closer than anybody has this year.
Anybody.
Indiana's been averaging like 42 points a game. The Michigan defense showed up and held them to 20.
Without their best cover corner.
If Michigan had a quarterback, they'd have won this game.
They'd have won this game. Yeah. This is the one game where Indiana played their worst. Michigan made them play bad. Like, this was Michigan making them play bad. And specifically the second half, the adjustments that Michigan made, Indiana could not move the ball. Like, I was kind of like, we talk about it. When Indiana rolls, it's just boom, 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 boom. Oh shoot, we're down 40. No, they could not separate themselves from Michigan in this game at all. And I think Michigan had a shot late to win it too. Like, they could have won this game, and they ended up having to settle for a field goal. So it's like Moen said, if they were just better at one position, we're talking about a complete upset here, and Indiana only still has to wait another, however many years to get the first win against Michigan in 50 years. So
yeah,
it was a good game though. But I will say this: Indiana got exposed because they're going to play a team next week with a much better defense than Michigan's, and Ryan Day has already watched that tape, guaranteed. They're already watching and dissecting that tape because everybody in the conference and now the country is going to watch that tape. So Indiana's got the bye week. They've got to figure out what Michigan did, and they've got to clean it up. That was bad.
Yeah.
That was bad football by Indiana.
Our friend, real quick, Illini Ted pointing out, Michigan find it's hard to win without a quarterback, even if your team is elite. Watching Iowa the last half of the decade wasn't enough evidence. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is a quarterback game, even at the college level these days. You have to have a guy that's at least dangerous throwing and running.
Yeah, but big congratulations to the Indiana Hoosiers.
First 10-0.
Full history, 10 wins in a season.
Cheers to you.
I don't have a bottle that's full.
I think are they the only one in the country or one of the first to reach 10 wins?
They're probably one of the first because they've got a bye week this week. So
Oregon's 10-0.
Okay.
They've got
right up there.
They've got the bye week next week.
Yeah, but especially in a power conference, that's a short list. Only a couple of teams
Yeah, there's nobody in the SEC undefeated. So.
Oh, there you go. That's a heck of an accomplishment. And Indiana, for all the smack people talked about, you over the years, enjoy every moment of this. We can speak as Washington fans from last year. You never know when it's going to be over. So enjoy every single win of a special season like you're having right now.
Right. And the good news is, even if you do lose to Ohio State, you get to end the season with Purdue. So
yeah,
you should get to 11 wins, at least 11 wins this season, maybe 12 wins, maybe 13 wins. Maybe you go to the conference championship game in Indianapolis and you pack that stadium with fans. Moving on, the Rutgers Scarlet Knights of Piscataway, New Jersey, knocked off the Golden Gophers in Kaliak Manus revenge game.
Yep. Kaliak Manus Bowl, and I think this was Rutgers' return into form. I know we saw Minnesota slinging the ball downfield and Brosmer looking like a Big Ten quarterback of the year type guy for a game or two there, but he's inconsistent as far as his downfield passing, and Rutgers just kind of leaned on the Hogs in front, ran the ball, and I think this is a good win for them as far as getting a reset. They've kind of slipped here after having such a promising start to the season. Yeah, I don't really know what to make of these two teams going forward. They're kind of both in the same place in my mind as far as like where they stand in the conference.
I mean, God, Rutgers they both, it wasn't a great game. They both kind of hung around each other. It was 16-14.
Yeah.
Going into the fourth. And then touchdown, safety, field goal. That was it. And then a late field goal by Minnesota, which I don't know why, with a minute to go in the game, you're kicking a field goal, but I mean, you had to get it anyway. But no, I don't know what to make of the two teams. They're both. Rutgers is inconsistent, which is fine, but Minnesota, Tony Washington might have been right. They might have been a little lucky at times this year.
Yeah.
Even though they got screwed over against Michigan.
Yeah.
But I think other times they've been a little lucky. Michigan was the one time where they didn't have any luck, and then this game Rutgers actually, like Moen said, they were true to form. They were good.
Yeah, Keith Choppin, our resident Rutgers fan, playing a bunch of walk-ons and still won. Huge win. Yeah, I mean, yeah. I don't know the exact situation, but every team's banged up and playing guys. I know the Kyle Manung guy has been kind of banged up the last few weeks and everything. So it's good to have a little bit of depth. That's certainly what we've seen with Washington is they don't have any when their offensive line gets hurt. Clay Johnson watched the entire game. Minnesota complete control in the last few drives, fumble and Rutgers scores. Right, but even just looking at the box score, Minnesota's in control, but they weren't turning that into points.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter if you have a 95-yard drive if you end up getting 3 or turn it over on the goal line.
We could say the same thing. Maryland was in control at times against Oregon, and they lost by 2 touchdowns. So it doesn't matter how you do it. It doesn't matter if you're in control because Washington has outgained pretty much every single opponent every single week for the most part. Doesn't matter. You've got to be. If you're not scoring points, it's pointless.
Yeah, turnovers are killers in the end.
Yep.
All right, moving on.
If you aren't, wait a second. We got to get that sounder too. Becky's saying if you aren't scoring points, pointless.
That's a good week for Sounders.
Moving on to next week, Friday, 9 p.m. live from Husky Stadium in Seattle, Washington.
Mm-hmm.
Red hot UCLA Bruins still have a chance to get bowl eligible. Washington needs a win to get bowl eligible. The battle of the bowl eligibility. What do you guys think?
Yeah, this is put up or shut up week for Washington. No excuses. An opponent we've played, I don't know how many countless times, probably coming close to 100 total games, something like that against UCLA. No excuses. We know the kind of game they like to play. We can scheme around it. This isn't a Big Ten team that we're not used to how physical they're going to be in the trenches. They're still talented, but they're talented where we excel at the skill positions. When Garbers does throw it down the field, they have good receivers if he can get the ball there. And our corners are still very good. So I expect Washington to win. It's going to be our blackout uniform game, which is kind of a mixed bag in recent years for Huskies when they wear alternate uniforms. But I expect them to get the win and get bowl eligible. That'd be a huge accomplishment for Fish, just considering everything that's happened. Like when you look the season in total to get bowl eligible with the kind of roster he's had. That's a big motivating factor, and I hope they don't overlook it because Oregon is 2 weeks away. They got a bye week before then. So, keep your eye on the prize, beat the team in front of you, and they've still been undefeated at home the last two and a half seasons. So keep it going.
Two things to keep in mind here. One, Washington's won 19 consecutive home games.
Yeah.
But
Cougars will contest that because of the neutral site game in Seattle at the Seahawks Stadium.
It wasn't our stadium. No, the UCLA, though, for whatever reason, can be a little bit of a, I would say, curse.
Yeah, thorn in the side.
Thorn in the side. We tend to be, we could be undefeated and probably lose to a bad UCLA team. Like, that's how much of a thorn in the side they are for us at times. I don't expect that this week. I do think Washington will win. They're really, really good at home versus the road. UCLA, we'll see what they decide to do. I mean, they've got a running quarterback. If they're smart, they're going to run him. All I know is I'm going to be freezing my butt off, trying not to get too drunk, watching this game in the stands. So,
yeah, if you're too cold, hopefully they make hot toddies for you so you can accomplish both things at once.
Oh, I'll be grabbing the hot chocolate. And then,
go.
of course, with the Kahlua, I sneak in.
Beautiful. We don't encourage breaking the law, kids. Do so at your own discretion. But no, it'll be a great game. It's a Friday night game on Fox prime time. I know it's late for our East Coast friends, but this is an old school Pac-12 battle. I wouldn't call UCLA one of our traditional rivals per se, but we've been basically in the same conference with each other for like 100 years. We've played them a lot.
They are 41-33 all time against Washington. They have an 8-game lead on us. And that's it. That's it.
Yep. Good guy. Good game. I think the line's about right. I picked the Huskies to win by maybe 5 or 6. That's my final call.
I think it's a 25-20 game. So,
yeah. Moen, anything on this one?
I like UCLA. I think they're getting hot at the right time.
You haven't seen us at home.
I will say, Moen, it's worth noting that Ethan Garber's, it'll be a revenge game for him because he spent a year at UW and redshirted in 2020 before transferring to UCLA.
Well, revenge games. You know how those Athen Kaliak Manus, the Greek rifle, how that goes. So,
but it's got my logic is it looks like it's going to be in the heavy Seattle rain and weather and wind, and we have a better running back than they do.
Yeah, it's supposed to be 48. It's around kickoff. It'll be 40 degrees and cloudy.
That's about as cold as it gets here. That's pretty chilly.
Have fun because it's going to be like 80% humidity. So, yeah, it's cold and it'll feel wet. So
cold and foggy.
It'll be. I think we can all agree it should be a pretty entertaining game back and forth, though.
Uh-huh.
Speaking of not looking ahead, Ohio State travels to Wrigley Field to play the Northwestern Wildcats.
What's the over-under on the percentage of Ohio State fans versus purple inside that stadium?
It's going to be a lot. A lot of Ohio State fans end up living in Chicago, so it'll be a lot.
Should have played this at Soldier Field. I don't know why it's at Wrigley.
Probably something to do with Kevin Warren and the Chicago Bears. So, but this is a traditional. Northwestern, I think, plays a game at Wrigley every year or every other year, traditionally. So it's they've made accommodations to where it's now a lot nicer to play football at Wrigley, I've heard. So I don't expect to see too much from Ohio State. They may not even cover. I expect to see lots of runs, and then just playing good defense. They're not going to show off too much. If they get up, 3 or 4 touchdowns, they're going to pull guys. So
if they give up a touchdown to Northwestern, I will laugh because Washington did not give up a touchdown to Northwestern.
It's true. Moen, do you think that it could be? Do you think it could possibly be similar to Purdue in that maybe the scorer doesn't, maybe at halftime it doesn't look as good because they're trying some stuff, resting guys, or otherwise, not necessarily throwing out the full game plan?
Well, here's the thing. Their defense has been pretty damn good the last 3 games. Outside of that Oregon loss, they've
Right.
really improved on defense. I can see them getting up 28 points and then just resting on their laurels and letting the defense handle the rest. So I don't expect. I would be shocked if they get the cover. They might let Northwestern score some garbage time points.
Yeah.
But they're going to probably rest up their guys for that big Indiana game.
Yeah. You could spot, Ohio State 4 touchdowns and they're not going to cover. Like, that's a pretty crazy line in my mind, especially an unfamiliar surface. They're playing this one at Wrigley. So moving on down, you got the mighty Michigan State, who Moen's rocking their headgear today. Moen, what's with the headwear? So I know you talked to Kuz about it earlier.
Yes, I usually try and wait until people win a game, but I can't depend on Michigan State to do that. So I am wearing it on their bye week since they had a bye week. They couldn't lose this weekend. Sparty travels to Champaign to play Burt and the Illinois Fighting Illini. I like Illinois. I like Illinois a lot in this game.
Man,
2.5. 2.5. Illinois, 2.5.
Man, Illinois has like one rough week, and then they just everybody leaves them for dead. Well, I maybe a couple rough weeks, but it's not like they've just been getting swamped. I mean, I kind of expect bad Aiden Childs to show up. This is kind of an MO for Jonathan Smith, like similar to UW in that he plays really well at home and kind of gets the crowd going. And he did the same thing at Oregon State, but on the road they wouldn't fare so well. I expect Illinois maybe not to put them away with a big score line, but I expect Illinois to have pretty well handled this game by the third quarter.
Yeah, I would think Illinois is going to have this game put away at the start of the fourth, but -2.5. Vegas knows a little something we don't. I'll take Illinois. I think they're going to more than cover, but I think they win by a touchdown. It's just like you guys said, which version of Michigan State shows up and which version of Illinois lately shows up.
Yeah.
Illinois' defense, I think, is enough to handle Michigan State's.
Yeah,
they're legit. They're legitimately really good.
Yeah.
Then at the 3:30 game on CBS, this is going to be a great game if you're watching. Penn State goes to Purdue. Purdue has not been a spoiler maker so far this season, and I don't see it starting this week. They're going to try and show up what Ohio State did to Purdue, so I would expect Penn State to score over 45 points in this game.
I think Penn State's shooting for style points at this point to ensure that they get a home playoff game, since they most likely will not play in the Big Ten title game.
No.
I think this is a big deal for Purdue. I feel really bad for them. And if I'm Penn State, I want to drop 50 on them and just pull my guys and be like, fourth quarter, and be like, we're done. We beat the crap out of you. We're moving on.
Yeah, we might mention that right at the end going into the college football playoff discussion, but Penn State's outside looking in after that loss to Ohio State. They don't control their own destiny as far as making the conference title game.
They need everybody to lose at least one game, so because they don't play.
They need Ohio State to beat Indiana, weirdly.
Weirdly, they do, and then they need Indiana. They need Oregon to lose once to like kind of take it out of get the tiebreakers kind of roll their way a little bit better. Take it out of everybody's control. But
yeah, I think Penn State's going to end up the number 5 seed in the play.
Yeah,
I think so.
Yeah, I mean James Franklin is going to I agree with you guys. He's going to run it up on them.
He has to.
It's like picking on the Huskies and everything, and the whiteout's one thing, but you run it up on Purdue in their own stadium just because you got your fifis hurt. Like, get over it, James Franklin.
Washington has been everybody's big game, and so has Michigan. How weird is that? I wonder what. I couldn't imagine why they wouldn't be.
Yeah,
big
Penn State
noon,
wins. Penn State wins big.
College game day, whiteouts. Everybody knows everybody's big game this year has been Washington and Michigan in the conference.
Now this next one before the season, man, this looked like a sweet game and maybe a game day and all that. and it's still interesting. It's still an interesting game, but in my opinion, some of the lusters come off this one. What do you guys think?
It's got some intrigue.
Will they make a bowl?
Well, Dana Holgerson takes over as offensive coordinator officially. He was hired a week ago as an analyst.
Yeah.
Like, okay, because analysts can, coach and do things like that. And now they basically said, yo, you're going to do all the play calling. The offensive coordinator's still there. I don't know how that works. And then USC has benched Miller Moss, who's apparently entering the portal.
Not surprising.
And I probably would too if I were him. Now, here's the thing, and I had to actually go back and look at this. Every single quarterback that has been successful under Lincoln Riley, do you know what they had that Miller Moss didn't have?
Transfer.
No.
The ability to run more than 5 yards.
The ability to run the football. Because we can say what you want about Baker Mayfield. He put a stiff arm on a dude yesterday and threw a pass. That was wild. But, yeah, every single one of them have legs. They move, they run, they do things.
Or they roll out and hit the ball down. Just being able to move out of the pocket.
This quarterback played, I think, at UNLV. So transfer from UNLV. Again, another transfer. They're playing a good Nebraska defense. If Nebraska stays in their lanes, it's going to be difficult, but that quarterback's going to put pressure on the Nebraska defense. I'm intrigued to see how much growth that quarterback has under Riley, but I'm very intrigued to see what Raiola does with a new play caller, who, by the way, is an air raid play caller.
But how much change are they
going through the air?
How much change can they really expect in 1 week? I mean, it's got to be in the same system. So you're just calling up, I guess, what you're doing situationally. I mean, how much effect do you really think that's going to have? Because I don't see them installing new plays or anything.
No, they're not going to install anything new. Everybody installs new stuff during the week. A lot of teams have brand new plays, but
not like a whole
new offense. But what I will say, I don't think Nebraska is going to run the ball as much as they used to, is what I'm going to say. And I think that bodes well for Nebraska because they have a quarterback that can do it. They have an O-line that can block, and they have a decent receiving core. Not great, decent. If they can just get out there and throw the football and then run the ball when necessary, they'll be fine. USC's issue is just hand the stupid ball off because you're really good at it. And now you have a quarterback you can move around the pocket and do certain things with. I'm intrigued. This could be – I know USC is like a 10-point favorite or whatever. But this could be like a 40 to 25, 40 to 35 kind of game, and I kind of want to see it.
Yeah. This is not news.
I am taking USC, but I mean, you can't you can't switch play callers and just be like, oh yeah, everything's fine. But I do think Nebraska is going to be a little bit better offensively.
It's not news to anyone that's watched USC, but they 100%, no shadow of a doubt in my mind, if Lincoln Riley wasn't who he was and he ran the ball like he should have, they would have 3 more wins, including Washington.
I think they beat Washington.
They run the ball.
They would be undefeated if they just did
maybe
all 5.
Maybe.
No. All 5 losses are 1 play away from
well.
So,
but there were other things in that games. 3 of them came directly to mind. That it's like all you had to do was run.
They are 1 play away every single game, and I still think they got robbed against Penn State because that's 100% pass interference.
Yeah,
but apparently not on that play.
Don't tell that to Utah and BYU fans.
Yeah. And then I think if their right tackle, who, by the way, I learned this today, their right tackle is the number 4 right tackle in the Big Ten in terms of pass block success rate.
It's pretty darn good.
Yeah, but he couldn't block on the 1 play they needed him to against Washington. This is them. This is them in a nutshell. That's why I keep saying this. But I don't know. Maybe Mo, and maybe I'm overthinking this, but you can't just up and change your play calling and then be like, "Oh, we're going to be fine."
No, I agree with you 100%. You can't go and install it. He's a true freshman quarterback. Yeah. It's going to be hard enough for a seasoned quarterback on a week's notice to learn new, new play calls and parts of a new air raid system. Nebraska has fallen off since that game against Colorado. They looked so good against Colorado. They looked like world beaters. They have just fallen back to reality. I don't think they get bowl eligible this week. I like USC. I think USC at home. I like them to run the ball. I like Zion Branch. I think if this kid can get outside the pocket, Maivia, get outside the pocket and maybe create something. I mean, those Branch brothers, they've got speed for days. I don't see anybody in the secondary for Nebraska who can keep up with them. So 9.5 is a little steep.
Yeah.
But I like USC.
I like it.
Yeah, I'm with you, Mo, and I'm going to split the difference. I think USC wins, but they're not going to cover. That's where I'm at. Stephen Vitt pointing out Lincoln Riley thinks he's the smartest guy in the room, and then the game starts. He definitely beats himself more. It seems like more times than the opponent beats him. Moving on down. Oh, breaking news. Washington is officially wearing the blackout with chrome, purple, and gold stripes and a chrome gold face mask. We don't do a lot of non-traditional stuff here, but it's pretty wild as far as Washington uniform goes. So I think that'll be an elite color matchup because UCLA with the subdued gold and powder blue on their uniforms. It's a good look. So I'm excited for that Friday night.
Everybody's got to keep up with the Ducks, right? We've all got to have 15 uniforms a season.
No,
I have no desire.
We introduced like a gold rush kind of uniform. 2 years ago, it was all white, which looked good. Last year, it was the all purple, and we will probably never break that out again because we didn't look great against Arizona State. In fact, we didn't score an offensive touchdown that day, but we still won.
Becky, we're in the Big Ten. We're supposed to be traditional. Oregon just didn't get the memo.
No, I can't say anything. Ohio State does the same thing every year. They have one alternative uniform. I hate it.
Michigan does the same thing.
I'm a fan. These look sharp, by the way. These look sharp. I'm looking at the video right now. Like,
UW usually has one game a year where they really go wild with one really cool combo. So,
yeah.
Well, they needed to get bowl eligible. So,
yeah, not everybody just spins the color wheel and see what it cracks out.
I think we'll probably be wearing all white in 2 weeks against Oregon, and they'll probably be wearing, or we'll be wearing purple, and they'll be wearing yellow. So
I have a theory about this. Oregon fans hate it that I brought it up before. Friends of mine who are Oregon fans. Every time Oregon doesn't wear green, like a primary color green, they don't have confidence that they're going to win. Because every photo of UW putting a hurt down on Oregon the last few years, they're wearing some crazy off combination. Like, look at the one Washington beat them 70-13, Becky?
70-21.
In Eugene?
That was some kid named Herbert. Never heard of him. Kind of plays for the Chargers now. First ever start. And he got Jake Browning put a beating on him. But they were the
Oregon was okay that year. Washington was really good. That was our college football playoff year. And they wore some weird navy blue inspired by the
Webfoots
flag garbage as a home game.
Yeah. No. That was an honor to the Webfoots. That was their original name. Whereas there's been talk of Washington wearing the what was our old name?
Yeah. The Sun Dodgers.
Sun Dodgers is what we were called before the Huskies. So,
in any case, I stand by the fact that if Oregon's playing in their home stadium and they're not wearing green, they're not confident they're going to beat you that week.
Their uniforms looked great against Maryland last week. Maryland's uniforms looked amazing, and Maryland's had some ugly things over the years.
Speaking of Maryland, now that you've upset all of our Maryland friends in chat, moving on down. We got the good old-fashioned Big East rivalry for the ages, Rutgers and Maryland.
Yes.
Bowen, you're
traditional Big East versus ACC matchup here in the Big Ten. Rutgers goes down to College Park, Maryland to play Maryland. Rutgers can get bowl eligible with a win. Maryland coming off that gutsy performance against Oregon.
Yeah.
I like Maryland. I'd like to see Rutgers get bowl eligible, but with Monongahela still banged up, I like Maryland. I don't know that they cover with that. It might be a field goal game, or it could be 14 points. So I like Maryland.
I like Maryland. I mean, I don't. There's 6.5. I'm giving them a touchdown, basically. I like Maryland. I don't think they're going to cover. They're going to win, but they're not going to cover. I liked what Maryland looked like against Oregon. They could move the ball. They could do pretty much, if they wanted to throw the ball, they could throw the ball in Oregon. They didn't run the ball very well, but that might be more of a Oregon's really good against the run at times. Oregon has looked terrible against the run at times, but they have looked good at other times. Maryland, if Maryland just 5% better would have beat Oregon, especially in the red zone. But if they don't turn the ball over, they're going to beat Rutgers. But I do see Rutgers. Oregon ran for almost 200 yards. Rutgers is going to run the ball down their throat. So it's going to be a close game. I think Maryland wins because they get the ball last. So there.
Okay. Here's where I'm at. And it doesn't sound like I was curious because obviously Monangai was out for this last one. If he comes back and is like good to go and not just like totally restricted, I think Rutgers wins outright. If he doesn't, I think Rutgers covers, but they lose close. That's my prediction. I got faith in Rutgers. They've had an up and down season, but a lot of it's been due to injuries. And, you know, their freshmen were able to run against Minnesota. I mean, you could make whatever determinations you want about the quality of Minnesota versus Maryland defenses. They're both kind of okay, in my opinion. I just think Maryland can't shake this November curse of, you know, crapping out bad losses when they have no business doing so.
Yeah.
So I think Maryland could win if Monangai's out because they lean on him so heavily, but I don't expect them to cover.
All right, we'll move on to Oregon and Wisconsin then. And I want to say this. Oregon with green and yellow, just wear green and yellow uniforms, guys. You've got one of the most unique color schemes in the A4. I don't know anybody else who has power yellow and Kelly green as their colors. So I don't get
Notre Dame tries, but it's really gross looking.
Oh, it's ugly.
It's horrible.
Yeah. But you know, I know they've got to sell merchandise for Nike, obviously. So I'm going to go out on a limb here. The Ducks do not cover this game. In fact,
is that 34?
It's 14.5.
Oh, wow.
The Ducks are traveling, and we know how teams have traveled this year in the Big Ten. Traditional West Coast teams going to traditional Big Ten teams have struggled. Traditional Big Ten teams going to West Coast teams have struggled.
Yep.
This is Camp Randall. This is at night. That stadium will be bouncing. You can get your seismographs out and see it bouncing. I think Wisconsin might pull off the upset of the year in Camp Randall this weekend. Jack Del Rio was busted out for a DUI. He did the right thing and resigned. But listen, Wisconsin, Camp Randall night, travel. That performance against Maryland, the pressure is going to be on Oregon. They're number one team in America. I think they're ripe. They could get upset here in Camp Randall.
I mean,
go ahead, Becky. I'll let you go first.
I'm saying Wisconsin's coming off a bye.
Yeah.
Like they're going to be rested. They're going to be ready. Jack Del Rio is no longer there. He did the smart thing and resigned after it wasn't even a DUI. He just was driving while intoxicated and hit a fence.
That's a DUI.
I mean, everywhere but
if
Wisconsin.
You're drunk enough
apparently.
to do that, you're intoxicated.
Yeah, that's not in Wisconsin. I mean, alcohol is given to you at birth.
Yeah.
No, I think it, and I told this to Oregon fans. I said, if you play your game, you're going to win. The problem is, Camp Randall is going to be crazy. Those people are liquored up because they're going to be drinking all day.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to go in there. They're going to be loud. They're going to be insane. They're going to be intense. The big thing for Oregon, they're going to have to weather that first half. I fully expect they're going to have to suck it up. That first half is probably not going to go their way. I think they're going to pull away in the end. But yeah, this is the one game. Okay, because I don't like rivalry games. Rivalry games you could flip a coin. They're either a blowout or they're really tight. This is the one game where they could lose. and they could get caught because they're coming off a tough game against Maryland. They have to travel across the country, and they're playing a team off a bye. Now, Wisconsin's not totally talented, but Wisconsin's not like bare bones out there. They still have talent. They have a good coach who can game plan. They're going to think of something. They've had 2 weeks to prepare for Oregon, and they got more film on Oregon. I think Wisconsin loses, but they're going to cover. Wisconsin's going to cover. They won't win, but they're going to cover.
So I really want to be with you guys, Mo, and you got me looking into it like, what are the factors that could lead to Wisconsin winning or at least keeping it close and covering? And the only one that I can really come up with is that Oregon's road schedule has been light at best. They've been at Oregon State, at UCLA, at Purdue, which I'd all consider not gimme games, but
that's a bye week.
Soft landings. Even UCLA, like it's a traditional rival. You're not going cross country.
Their biggest road game was at Michigan.
Yes. And Michigan's having the kind of season they're having. So color me unimpressed.
Yeah.
That being said, the teams that Wisconsin has played that are most similar to Oregon are, I think it stylistically, USC and Alabama. Those were not close games. Wisconsin got raced in both of them, even against USC. And Oregon's got that kind of athletes and more. I want to believe that Wisconsin can do it, but in my heart of hearts, I think Oregon wins by at least 3 scores. I really do.
I don't know if this stadium could handle how crazy those fans are. The number 1 team in the country coming in. Those players are hyped. The fans are hyped. I just think it's going to be tighter than it is. Also,
all it takes is Dillon Gabriel rolling out, making a freaking 40-yard pass, and they'll shut him up fast.
It would be best. It would be best if like Wisconsin was having an actual like Wisconsin fall instead of an Oregon fall.
Yeah.
The Oregon's not like the weather is not even going to be a factor, but I do think the crowd noise at the beginning of the game is going to be a problem for Oregon. The big house is quiet. Purdue, they haven't played anywhere remotely close to the noise that they're going to have there, because
this will be bar none the hardest.
UCLA was probably a home game for Oregon. It usually is for most teams. They have to weather the storm, and Glenn Hanna said it best. They're not a second half team, so like they've got to score, they've got to put the points on, and then they're just going to have to suck it up and like they got to go. Like they've got to keep their foot on the gas, I think, in this one, because Wisconsin's going to come out hype. They did, like we say, they got boat raced by Alabama. Did you watch the first quarter against Alabama?
Right, but that was just
Alabama was
into the game.
Alabama's like, we played at LSU, we played at Georgia, we played at this is nothing. Oregon doesn't play many games like this in these huge environments, and they haven't done it this year. They're going to do it. This time they're actually going to do it. And I think Wisconsin's a better team now than they were when they played Alabama and when they played USC. So I fully expect at a week off, I fully expect a good game. But again, I think Oregon just wins because that's what they do. They just win.
Yeah. I mean, it goes without saying, Mo, and if you're right and they win straight up, upset of the year, bar none.
Yeah, I think Oregon is clearly the better team. I'm not saying that. I think Oregon's the better coached team. Is it just a complete coaching staff?
Lanning has proven me wrong this year. He hasn't had his James Franklin brain fart.
This
week.
Camp Randall at night. I know they've played at Autzen. They've played in their home stadium. When when those kids start jumping around and that stadium starts shaking, because I mean it shakes. It's not. I've been to a night game at Camp Randall. It was the infamous Ohio State choke game where the guy choked the quarterback from Wisconsin.
Yeah.
But yes, Wisconsin ended up winning that game. It was raucous, and that was 20 some odd years ago. I don't want to say how old I am, but it was a long time ago.
Infamous game.
I remember
hell of a stadium, hell of an atmosphere.
And they sell alcohol now, so just when you needed a little more juice on top.
I'm telling you, they're going to be liquored up and ready to go If
Yep.
I'm Oregon, score quick, shut them up. Just shut them up.
Yep. Well, it's certainly going to be an interesting slate. I know there's quite a few teams on bye week, kind of as we're rolling into the rivalries coming up. But man, the Final Four, you got to take care of business. And Mo and I kind of want to roll that into our closing discussion. With do all 4 teams make the CFP? Yes, no, maybe. And maybe within that, who do you think makes the Big Ten title game?
I like Ohio State and Oregon in the Big Ten title game.
Okay.
I think Ohio State wins that game. I don't know if Oregon's going to have one loss by then if they lose to Wisconsin or the rivalry game against Washington. But, I'd like to see it end with 4 teams with 1 loss. I'd like to see Ohio State get that bye in the first round. And I'd like to see the other 3 Big Ten teams host a playoff game. I'd like to see, I mentioned it last night, I think Indiana would probably move their game to Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis. It holds more people. It's a faster field. Penn State, whiteout conditions. I would love to see an SEC team come up there. Georgia, Alabama, Ole Miss, whoever ends up representing the SEC, I'd love to see that. And I would, love to see Oregon host a game as well.
Yeah.
Right on. You on the same page, Becky, or any other different predictions?
I see a scenario that Penn State or Indiana sneak in, and right now I see it, but I'm not going to say it. Like, I believe that it's Oregon and Ohio State. They are, for me, team number. I think Texas might be the best team in the country. I know they have a loss, but I think they are the best team in the country. I really think they are. They have the 1 loss. That's the big difference between them and Oregon. But I think on a neutral field, I'm probably taking Texas right now. That's not being a Oregon hater. That's just watching.
Texas is just really good.
Texas is so good. They're
really
so
good.
deep. They are crazy. Like, their quarterback's hurt. That's okay. They're back. We know their backup's really good because he's played really good this year. They have the best receiving core. They have the best D line. They have the best O line. I fully believe that Ohio State will win that game only because Ohio State will win the Big Ten, only because that game is played at Lucas Oil, and it's 1 week after they both play their rivals, and Oregon's going to have to travel to Lucas Oil, and they're going to have to do it on they're going to have to leave on Thursday because they're going to need that extra day of rest on Friday, whereas Ohio State can leave and do the normal thing on a Friday and still be fine. They're not changing time zones, none of that.
Yeah.
But I also believe that all 4 teams will host a playoff game. I think the Big Ten will have the 1, the 5, the 6, and the 7 when it's all said and done. I think that's how it's going to shake because the SEC teams are currently beating the crap out of each other, and they're not really holding up. But I do think that's how it's going to go, and I think the SEC, outside of Texas, I think Texas wins the SEC, but I think Alabama, Ole Miss, and Tennessee are going to be traveling to those Big Ten schools. Well, they're going to be traveling. They'll be traveling to the Big Ten schools. I think Boise State's going to travel to Oregon. I think that's how it's going to shake out. They'll play again at Oregon, and then that'll be fun just because of how that game went earlier in the year. But that's how I think it's going to go. I fully expect, and if worst case scenario, somebody ends up as the 7th, I don't think any of them end up on the road because they're all only going to have 1 loss.
Yeah, I don't see a scenario where any of them have 2 losses other than, Penn State slipping, but the rest of their schedule's very manageable.
The rest of the schedules are favorable for all 4. Oregon, of course, they have the game at Wisconsin, but they have a bye, and then they host their rival. Ohio State plays at Michigan, or plays at home against Michigan, but they also have to go to Indiana.
Nope. We get Indiana at home too. We've got to go to Northwestern. Then we have Indiana at home, and then we have Michigan at home.
Ohio State had a
all of that says they're not traveling.
Yeah,
that's a problem for Oregon. Like that's going to be a problem for Oregon. They don't have to travel.
I am still worried about Michigan. So I'm
Yeah,
worried about
rivalry-
Indiana too, but I'm worried about Michigan. So
Yeah, rivalry
Rivalries
games are
toss it
hard to. Rivalry games, you toss out records. That's why I'm like, I'm not saying yes or no to Washington and Oregon. I think Oregon's better than Washington, clearly, but it's going to be a rivalry, and all of those players want to beat each other. So
yeah. Washington 2 years ago going to Eugene, I think, weren't we like 17-point underdogs or something crazy?
Yeah, we were not
right.
supposed to be in that game,
Yeah.
and went in there and won that game. Now we don't have the talent at multiple positions that we did then, but I'm just saying.
That's the point, though. Rivalries, toss it out.
All these teams. I sorry to the rest of the country, but yeah, eight of the teams are going to be SEC and Big Ten. End of story. Everybody else is a one-bid conference because unless you want to count Notre Dame for the
unless
ACC.
someone's absorbing a third loss, but I don't know the SEC teams, but it's not going to happen in the Big Ten. It's like almost mathematically impossible.
Georgia's schedule is pretty favorable to State too, so they're going to kind of force some things. Tennessee has a tough game this week. I think they have Alabama. That's crazy in its own right. But yeah, no, it's all going to be tough. I think Alabama has Oklahoma, so it's everything's going to shake out. We just need to be patient. But tomorrow night, we'll know what the committee's thinking. We're going to see where they rank the teams, and that's the most important thing, because SMU or Miami are going to probably be the 4, because they lost, and BYU will shoot up to the 3. But they had all 4 teams in the Big Ten.
Just saying that out loud.
BYU,
so wild. Like BYU in the 3 seed. No offense to BYU, but just none of us predicted how that
no, but
go.
I did say this. I did say this to somebody, and I don't mean to be mean or rude to BYU fans. I know Palmer doesn't want to hear this. I couldn't take BYU on a neutral field against any of the top 4 in the Big Ten or the SEC right now.
No offense to BYU, even Indiana, Penn State. No,
I don't even know if I take them over a Miami. Like Miami's looked good at times. Miami finally looked terrible. However, I still keep seeing that replay of the guy that had his helmet like ripped off and then popped off. Did you guys see that? That was nasty.
That was brutal.
That was brutal. I was like, ooh.
That was wild.
But I'm just saying, like, BYU look. I'm not impressed with a number of the schools. BYU didn't look great Saturday. It's a rivalry though. Miami obviously didn't look good. SMU is the one that I can't figure out if they're good or not. Can't figure it out. Notre Dame. I'm not. Notre Dame would. I would put Notre Dame on a neutral field, and I think they'd lose to BYU. So, the top 8 are in the SEC and the Big Ten, and everybody else is playing catch up. But you give a team a month off, that's all it takes. So.
Yeah. Beauty of it, guys. We get to throw them all in a blender and see what happens, and you never know when you're going to get a Boise State, Oklahoma. That's the beautiful part of college football and why we love it so much.
I am just curious, though, about Georgia, because they have their second loss. They were the number, 2 team last week. So we're going to see I'm very curious where the committee puts them.
Yeah, I think what we've seen, despite the fact Oregon and Indiana are currently undefeated, I think there is no juggernaut to me. Every team has weaknesses. Even Oregon, even Indy, they've had close calls, both of them. I don't think you're not seeing, Georgia from the past couple of years where you're just expecting them to run the table all the way to the championship. I think we're seeing a pretty wide open field when it comes to the top contenders.
Georgia's got a bad quarterback.
Yeah.
Georgia's got a really bad quarterback.
All the money in the world, and they got mediocre quarterback play.
And Oregon's got a couple of issues with their receiving core right now, but they're not great against the run either. This was the first time I actually thought they looked good. Texas, their issues are health. They have some health issues themselves. Alabama has not looked like Alabama, but Tennessee they start slow. So Indiana's finally looked pedestrian, if you want to say that. Penn State struggles for whatever reason in big games. So everybody's got a flaw.
Unless you're playing Washington in a Fiesta Bowl, then you just run mop the floor with him.
Well, no, I mean that was hey, Saquon Barkley run right.
Yeah.
Saquon Barkley did that to everybody that year, so I'm not even upset about it. Ask Moen. Like Ohio State was like, we're screwed.
Yeah.
I think they beat Ohio State that year in the shoot.
I believe they did. I believe you're correct.
Handing the ball off to Saquon Barkley, who we all know is the best running back.
Yeah. Real quick as we're wrapping up here, Jackson Johnson stopping by. Hello, my friend. Jackson's over there making awesome college football content as well. Please go check out his channel, Twitter, X, all the good stuff. But yeah, it's good to see college football ecosystem. Another creator stopping by. I know Koo stopped in earlier. Please check out his channel as well. But yeah, I think my playoff prediction, I think Oregon, by the nature of math and how I expect the games. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
By the nature of how I expect the games to go, Oregon with a loss to me is still in, because I can't fathom a situation where they wouldn't be. I don't know quite how the tiebreaker shake out, but Oregon's pretty much a lock for me in the title game. So it all comes down to that Indiana-Ohio State game. I'm currently taking Ohio State. It's in the shoe. They're definitely going to have that one circled, although the Michigan game is up in front of them after that. I expect Ohio State, Oregon. I think Ohio State, like you said, wins it, locks in that spot. I think we're legitimately going to see a scenario where post-conference championship, we're going to have 4 one-loss teams in the playoff, which is wild, just crazy stuff to see.
That's so weird. It's just, there's only one.
SEC's a mess. I don't even know what to make of the SEC. They keep beating each other, and Vandy keeps winning, and all sorts of crazy stuff. But we will certainly get to that upcoming. Once again, we just want to thank you for stopping by on a Veterans Day. Shout out to all our veterans out there. Those who served, you protect our country so we get to enjoy stuff like college football. Thank you for your service, Becky.
You're welcome. And thank you, Pickles, for your service.
I just had a cool job once upon a time. It's all good.
I did too. I was a meteorologist. Sorry, guys. I didn't do anything cool.
Well, thank you both for your service.
Yeah.
I stayed
you thank
at
us
home.
for our service, but I mean, I'm the first one to admit I didn't go anywhere, didn't do anything cool, had a cool job once, but we're not special. We just had a fun job once upon a time. But you get guys out there like Ed Wainer, who's actually doing underwater nuclear torpedo submarine things. Yeah, that's a whole nother level of crazy. But once again, appreciate our veterans, and be sure to check out Moen After Dark if you want the kind of hot takes reaction. It's on Sunday nights, and him and Rock just go into chat. Comments are flying and hot takes galore, and Moen gets his standard Moen rants in for the week, usually about Notre Dame / Ohio State / Michigan. But all teams are fair game for Moen rants. Big 12 Mafia, absolutely got to check out Big 12 Mafia this week. Holy War and the hot takes and controversy following the Holy War. It got real spicy. And Bomber and Wild Ute, they're still talking. We haven't officially broken up the gang yet, but as you can imagine, hanging out in Salt Lake City together, the Holy War vibes.
By the way, I'll just say this, Utah fans, I understand your anger with that one play.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't a hold all game long. And then it was. But even for all the other refs who were out there, who were like actual referees and can comment, were all saying the same thing. It wasn't a hold. But at the same time, I'm like, don't do something that looks like something and it won't get called. That's the best.
Definitely controversial, and at the very end of the game, it seems like the calls kind of weigh more heavily. But absolutely check that out, Big 12 Mafia. I'm sure they'll talk about it as nauseum as the Big 12 season is wrapping up there. It's a fun conference. I mean, we talked about it from the beginning. The Big 12 top to bottom is like peak entertainment. So
we might have
sure to check that out.
We might have 2 former Pac-12 schools playing in that conference's title game. By the way, BYU focused it all.
Wild stuff. But wrapping on up, Becky, what is your one for the road going into the home stretch of the season?
I'm going to say this. Referees have played way too much rolling games all year. Case in point, we just talked about Utah, but Washington had a player ejected for targeting. I don't think it was targeting.
Yeah,
in the first half. It's questionable. I think at times players haven't even been able to cast a shadow without getting a penalty. So at some point, the referees do need to let the players play and not be so ticky-tack. And I think things will be good. And I'm not just talking like as a Washington fan who's seen stupid penalties called at weird times. Every single game seems to have this happen. And lastly, wait until the clock hits 0, kids, before you run onto the field and try to take down the goalpost, which did show up. Which did show up at on like the center of the campus at Ole Miss. I thought that was funny. I was like, they didn't throw it in a river or nothing. They just left it on the campus.
I don't know where the nearest body of water is there in Oxford, Mississippi, but apparently it's too far away for them to manage.
Oh, I mean, those Vandy kids were like, we're going to haul this thing 6 miles.
If you're Vandy and you beat Alabama, you'd march that thing all the way to the ocean if you have to. But yeah, learn how to read clocks there, guys. You're in college. Like, come on. You know, iPhone isn't going to tell you the time all the time. You know, big hand, little hand, all that stuff. Moen, what is your one for the road going into the final few weeks?
Doesn't matter how many teams we get into the playoffs. If we don't win those playoff games, Big Ten, you have to win some playoff games this year. You have to beat some SEC teams. You're going to probably have to beat an ACC team. We got to do it. We got to get them beyond the first round. It does us no good to get 4 in and have 4 losses. We need to get some wins, guys.
Absolutely. Hey, Washington and Michigan last year put away 2 SEC teams. We held up our end of the bargain, even though we weren't in the conference yet. Just saying. So it's on you guys to keep it rolling. I'll never root for the Ducks, but there's a silver lining to them winning, I guess, for the conference. But absolutely, we will be looking forward to the home stretch of races. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody. Went a little long tonight. But from everyone here at College Football Mafia and the Big Ten Mafia Show, thank you. Have a good Veterans Day, and we'll see you later.